What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to talk about what Tesla's trying to do so far as we're showing some life. We have to see if Tesla could hold this level to continue pushing. I want to break down what's happening with big data that just came out and how the market's reacting, what's going on with other pieces of news affecting the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, when it comes to Tesla, we can see something very interesting on the charts. Tesla has been uptrending for the last day and a half as we're making higher highs and higher lows, and Tesla managed to break past 180, which is a very, very good sign. But the question is, can we maintain this level? Can Tesla try to hold above 180 for the time being to try to continue to push higher? I'll be breaking down more details about this in the next couple of minutes. But first, I want to talk about some other important factors. So for today, for SPY, we have about 1.1 million puts expiring and about 400,000 calls expiring with a 2.64 puts to call ratio. This is going to be very, very important. We'll see how things go moving forward thanks to this. On top of all of this, I just want to call out that we had the unemployment numbers that just came out and the market is pumping as a result of these. So basically, overall, we had about 275,000 non-farm payrolls higher than expected, and the unemployment rate went up to 3.9%. So there's another increase. Now, the market's pumping for so many different reasons. Could be just a reaction to what Jerome Powell said. It could be because that this does de-incentivize the Fed from being more hawkish as we're finally starting to see unemployment going up. There are all sorts of different reasons, but at this point it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the market has a positive reaction, is still trying to hold up. So we're going to be watching to see how it continues from here. And then on top of this, at noon today, we have another minor piece of data. We have the WASDE report. That's coming out at noon, and that's the last piece of data that's coming out for today. That's worth noting. So, what is the WASD report? This is basically just a report released monthly and provides annual forecasts for the supply and use of like world wheat, rice, different grains, oil seeds, and cotton. That's going to be quite important, at least for the economy, but for the markets, it may cause somewhat of a move at noon Eastern Standard Time. But that's it for earnings. America's Car Mart just announced its earnings too. They ended up not doing too well because their revenue was down 7.9%, a decrease to 299 million. And then on top of this, they had experienced a loss of 8.5 million with a loss per share at 1.34 or $1.34. Everything else was close to expectations, but we did see their revenue decline and they reported a loss, which is why the share price is dropping. So this decline in revenue is still hurting them, so that is worth noting. For headlines affecting the markets, S&P 500 is hitting new all-time highs as the market's still holding up decently, but we're going to be watching some tight resistance levels, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. With the jobs numbers that just came out, the market's continuing to push. It could even continue to push higher as we're still looking bullish. Make sure you watch some key resistance. I just want to note that when it comes to employment, the employment figures are not as what's like many Fed officials were predicting and expecting. But going forward, the data is still looking decent overall. We are seeing some increases here and there in unemployment, but the data is not too horrible, and the market is still responding in a very, very docile manner, in my opinion. When it comes to Jerome Powell, I just want to mention that he did mention something very important about how the Fed is not far from being able to ease on policy. He told the Senate committee that, but they still have to continue to monitor the situation, so nothing new from there. I'm going to talk about this article in just a minute. And besides that, many grocers are coming out and they're just competing when you have like Walmart, Target, and the others who are now considering starting subscription services for deliveries and things like that. Anyways, let's talk about this headline. So what's happening with Novo Nordisk? So apparently the market cap surpassed Tesla on a new pill that came out. Honestly, guys, I find this to be very ridiculous. The mainstream media are finding any way to pick on Tesla, and they're continuing to do this, saying that one company surpassed another, this and that. Does it really matter at this point? Because what matters more is Tesla's fundamentals. Tesla's been falling because of because we're in a situation, right, that's very different from normal because of the high interest rates and things like that. So it doesn't make sense to just attack Tesla constantly, and they're going to try to find any way to just attack Tesla. So I'm seeing a lot of these major headlines talking about how a pharmaceutical company surpassed Tesla, this and that. Honestly, guys, it doesn't really matter to me. I just find it ridiculous nonetheless. There's been some talk about the new Model 3 performance, as there could be new designs coming out. So we're actually seeing this, and this is actually making a lot of rumors. So if there is a new Model 3 design, this is what it may possibly look like, but nothing is guaranteed yet. Looks pretty cool. We also have one in black, so that would be pretty cool too if this ends up getting released. But if anything, nothing is guaranteed about this. I just think it looks cool nonetheless. These are what the images kind of look like. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that is it for some of the headlines involving Tesla. I'm not seeing anything too crazy right now on the news. For the markets, Tesla's on an uptrend right here, so I'm going to be watching to see how well this thing could hold up. You guys can see it's been attempting to continue to push. Watch resistance at this 182.5 area. We have this support right here at 181 flat, which is very minor support, and we have stronger support at 180. Then below that, we have 178. Overall, as far as Tesla goes, it could attempt to push higher. It might come down a little bit, but then attempts to fight 182.5. We could try to push a little higher. If we do get that break, 184 is likely coming. But I do think it's going to remain a range bound for a lot of today. So look for a little drop in, a push up higher. And we'll see if Tesla can try to get that break of 182.5. If it does do so, a bigger push could be coming from here because of this nice structure that has been accumulating right over here too. There's also the possibility of like an inverse head and shoulders, where this is like our left shoulder, this is our head. We come all the way down to 178 again, and then we get a big bounce. That's another possibility, but I'm not counting on it as much. I do think Tesla's going to decline a little bit towards 180, then try to make its way back up. But watch and see how well we could hold 180 for the time being. There is a breakout attempt on Tesla, and it's holding up quite well. So look for a little decline and a little bounce, and we'll see if Tesla can try to break this 182 resistance, and we'll see how it goes. But just be a little bit careful for the time being. As far as SPY goes, SPY is in a very similar place. It has been trying to push up higher. We managed to go all the way up to about this 516 area. We got a nice breakout. There was 516.5 as resistance, and 516.8 to 517. We pushed up, got a little rejection. Now we're coming back down towards the previous support right here at 515.8. And if we do lose this, watch 515 as our support. There's a gap forming below. If we lose that, there's 514.2, 513.5, then 512 as our supports. Overall, SPY has been pushing, which is great. But I want to warn everyone that you have to be careful because the resistance is very tight up here. Very tough resistance. If we break 516.5, we could hit 518. But SPY is trying to reject a little bit, so it might shuffle a lot and very close to 516 for some time. But there is a risk of it coming down if we do fail to get that break of 517. So just be careful at this resistance in the 516s. We could push, shuffle a bit, and eventually come down if we fail to hold. So just be a little bit careful on SPY. You see, there's so many puts expiring, but most of the puts are already out of the money, so it doesn't really matter as much to market makers. They don't have to be perfect. Even if we do come down just a bit, they're going to be fine. So they don't have to necessarily squeeze SPY up to like 520 in one day. We may pop here and there, shuffle in the 516 area, then come back down a little bit, and then continue to trade sideways. I think that's a possibility on SPY. For the QQQ, I'm seeing something very, very similar. The QQQ was trying to break out. We hit 447, but we failed to really hold that so far. You guys can see it's kind of rejecting. Watch 446 as support. If we lose this, our next support zone is going to be 445 and then 443.5. Resistance, watch 446.8, 447, followed by 448. Where if we push a little bit, now we're starting to come down just a little bit. We're going to be watching 445. QQQ is trying to break out, but it's fighting some very tough resistance. So just be careful. It may pop again, retest this resistance and come back down. But I just want to warn you all of a possible rejection that could be coming. It's a very, very tough resistance, so we'll see how it reacts. Might pop and drop, and it may make its way back down to these lower levels. So just be very, very careful on the QQQ. Despite that, Nvidia is still holding up quite well, but just be a little bit careful on Nvidia. So this thing pushed all the way up to about 958, and then above that, if we do break that, we could go up to 965. For support, we're trying to hold 944 around that area. If we lose this, we have this imbalance to fill all the way back down here, this gap at 925. Nvidia pushed very nicely. It came back down, came back up. It's kind of shuffling between 944 and 958, going back and forth and back and forth. But I just want to warn everyone that because it pumps so hard, uh, be careful of a possible rejection if it does end up coming down. So just be a little bit careful at this tight resistance. Nvidia may trade sideways in this range for some time, but just be very, very careful on it. So I think that We're going to make another attempt to push higher. We'll watch and see how it reacts to resistance. It's a tough resistance. It hasn't been able to break this quite yet. May get a temporary break back up towards like 965, but then come back down as time goes on. So just be careful. It might just trade sideways in this range for some time with some pops and drops here and there. So I just want to warn you guys to be a little more careful with this and more cautious. For Apple, not looking too great. It's just continuing to shuffle. It failed to get a nice hold of 170. It hit 170, came back. It's just going back and forth and back and forth. It might just continue to shuffle for today. I'm not really seeing too much. There is this gap to fill below in the 168s, though, so just be careful of a possible drop. So it might pop a little bit again. And then come back down. Watch 170.9 and 172 as resistance. To turn bullish, you have to break past 172. If you're bearish, you want to see it basically lose 168. In my opinion, it might pop and shuffle around 170 and come down to fill this gap. So it's still looking kind of lackluster, just like how it did yesterday. That's it for my analysis for now, guys. I want to try to upload this video as fast as possible. Thank you for listening. Tesla is showing some strength. It's still holding up decently, but I just want to warn you all that the market has some tight resistance. It could try to push again. We could see the market try to push, but be careful at these tight resistance levels on SPY and the QQQ. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'm going to upload this as fast as possible. Have a great day. Tesla, the market is the moon because the long term is very bright. And peace out.